Hello and welcome back to the Not the Old Firm YouTube channel. My name is Ben Banks. Back to look on a weekend of action-packed Scottish football. Loads of big games going round, big games that didn't go ahead, and everything in between. And we'll look back on that, as well as hearing from a couple of SPFL managers along the way. Plenty to look back on. It was a weekend again full of talking points. COVID, another big one, as well as a few shock results. Perhaps not in terms of the actual scoreline, but in terms of what the points meant for the different teams. So to go through the weekend results, not one we are focusing on, but Celtic lost in the Old Firm derby 2-0 to Rangers. Dundee United drew with Aberdeen 0-0 at Tannadice. It was a crazy game in South Lanarkshire as Hamilton scored 3 at home but still couldn't get the victory, losing to St Johnstone 5-3. Kilmarnock got an impressive victory on the road to Livingston with a 3-1 victory. Ross County drawing with Hibs 0-0. And then the other game, St Mirren versus Motherwell, was postponed due to COVID problems at St Mirren, which we'll touch on during the video. It leaves the league table as follows. Rangers are at the top by 4 points. Celtic in second. Hibs retain third spot. Aberdeen in fourth, both of them drawing, so perhaps failing to make ground on those above them. Kilmarnock moved into fifth. Dundee United make up the top 6. And in the bottom 6, we've got Ross County in 7th, Livingston in 8th, St Johnstone in 9th, Motherwell are in 10th, albeit they've got a couple of games in hand. St Mirren are in 11th and Hamilton dropped to the bottom of the table after their defeat. Right, so to look back on the weekend's action, we'll start in alphabetical order as always. First of all, with Dundee United, Aberdeen. Even though it was 0-0, a good point for Mickey Mellon's men. They'll be looking to seriously improve in their next matches. Perhaps still a bit of a hangover from the League Cup matches where they lost against Peterhead and struggled to victory against Kelty Hearts. Albeit, regardless, a very decent point for them against an Aberdeen side who've been in really good form as of late this season. They battered down the door, Aberdeen. If it wasn't for the top performances of Benjamin Siegrist, then they would have been probably down 2 or 3 at half time, never mind by full time. So they had a lot for him to thank. Brian Edwards as well at the back, really good for them. But Aberdeen will basically see it as a missed opportunity, you would think, just with how many chances they had. And given those around them as well, drop points. Celtic lost at Aberdeen. Perhaps moving into second place might be a bit out of reach, but they could have made ground on them in the meantime. And Dundee United, points-wise, it's a decent point, given the way they performed. If they had lost, probably nobody could have had too many complaints, but a decent result for them nonetheless. Hamilton versus St Johnstone, 3-5 in South Lanarkshire, a crazy game. St Johnstone 3-0 up inside 33 minutes. Stevie May putting them up after less than a minute, so it was a really fast start in that one. Hamilton looked down and out just before half-time, but 2 goals, Ronan Hughes and Marius Ogumpo there to make it 3-2. But Craig Conway double in the second half sealed things for Callum Davidson's side. And a real return to form for them. They hadn't scored 4 Premiership matches prior to this one, but they scored 7 against Brecon the week before this, and then returned to goal scoring form in the Premiership with 5. So a real confidence booster for them. Perhaps a big one for St Johnstone is the return to form for Stevie May. Scored a hat-trick against Brecon, scored again against Hamilton, also got an assist as well, so he's in really good form. And Craig Conway showing his skill and a bit of experience. David Witherspoon always Mr. Reliable for them, so they'll be really pleased with their performance and attack. Defensively, of course, still conceded 3 goals, so they will want to improve upon that. But overall, they'll be really pleased with the victory, a much needed one, given how they've played. It's been a pretty poor start for them, but showing signs of recovery now in the last few weeks. As for Hamilton, in this one, more questions have been asked of Brian Rice after this. 3-0 down inside 30 minutes, and it just gives them far too much to do for the rest of the game. They did fight back well. They did show a lot of resilience. The game wasn't really ever dead up until about the 20 minutes from time or so when St Johnstone added their 4th. Perhaps then it was beyond them, but we've seen it a few weeks ago. They went down 3-0 to Hibs. They came back to 3-2 again before half-time. They came back to 3-2. It almost feels as if they need to go a couple of goals down to really wake them up, and then they start. They really need to work on just starting like that and putting those performances in for, even if they could get a start. I mean, working straight up to a 90-minute display perhaps would be difficult. I think they played well against Motherwell in the early stages of the season. That's probably whilst again perhaps not free-flowing, they were really consistent for that 90 minutes. They really need to figure out how to get that again. They're bottom of the table, that won't faze them one bit. They've been down that neck of the woods before, they know how it goes. But again, Britain fans not too happy with Brian Rice or the team conceding 5 goals to a relegation rival, really concerning for some Hamilton fans. But Brian Rice doesn't seem too despondent about it. He'll pick his men up again and they'll get going there back in action on Tuesday night against Aberdeen in the rearranged fixture up at Pittodrie. But I mean, they did get the victory there recently under Brian Rice's tenure, so they have got winning experience up there. They'll hope that counts for something. They really could be doing with points in this one, despite the overwhelming odds Aberdeen will have to be favourites. However, Hamilton really in need of a positive result against Premiership opposition. League Cup perhaps didn't go the way they quite wanted it to. The defeat to Annan was a real poor one, and then against Ayr United they sort of struggled to victory. Against St Johnstone, whilst again they showed that they can sort of show resilience and show spirit, they really need to start putting points on the board sometime soon. Livingston versus Kilmarnock, is the other one. Kilmarnock in self-isolation for 2 weeks. Questions asked of whether they could actually go and perform at a high level against a really tough Livingston side. Livingston, who had rejected their pleas to put this game back to maybe the Monday or Tuesday night to give Livingston Kilmarnock a bit of time to rest after their period in self-isolation. But it turned out Alex Dyer's men didn't need it. 3-1 victors for them. Livingston took the lead early on, perhaps was a sign of things to come, but Kelly didn't let that get them down. And Aaron Tishabola, Chris Burke and Greg Kiltie scoring for them. And Alex Dyer reacted to the result after the match.
Coming out with a job to do, and we've done it well. We're organised, got an honest bunch of footballers who want to work hard for this football club and they enjoy what they do. They've had 2 weeks without doing anything, and they've come in and put in performance like that. Yeah, they're a little bit tired, but quite rightly so. They worked hard for each other. They're a close bunch, which you can see that on the pitch. And I've got a good squad. I can rotate and I can change whenever I need to. I don't think it's no surprise. It's happened to us, and it's going to happen to many other teams. Like I said earlier, we have to look after each other. Don't use what's going on as a blame game for anybody. St Mirren's gone down. I hope they're all well and safe. And the games will take care of itself. You can play the games anytime. There's no supporters coming in at the moment, so these games can be arranged anytime. The FA shouldn't be looking at always blaming someone in an inquiry. The whole country's under pressure at the moment, and football's a part of that. So we have to sometimes just take it on the chin and move on.
Gary Holt as well, speaking after the game. McCrory came under a bit of fire from Livingston fans, perhaps a bit harshly after the game. He made a bit of an error for the third goal, dropping it just at the feet of Greg Kiltie. Gary Holt, after the game, defended his goalie, saying it's a lonely world if you're a goalkeeper these days.
I'm sure the boys, as we're in the ascendancy at 1-0, we're comfortable in the game, as we were for the whole game, to be honest. I think it was very one-sided, going one way. But the second goal and the third goal certainly takes the wind out the sails and makes it hard for you to get back in. It is, but look, he's learned his trade, he's young, he's done well for us at times as well, so you make a mistake, you probably thought he had more time to gather it, pat it down, whatever, and he's been unlucky that it's obviously the guys followed in and it's came off and went in, but it's a lonely world being a goalkeeper.
And in the other game that was played on Saturday, Ross County versus Hibernian, 0-0 for the Staggies against the Hibees. A decent result for the Ross County, a game similar to the Dundee United game. Hibs threw everything at Ross County. Nobody could have complained if they walked away with a 2 or a 3-0 win, but couldn't find a way to go. Ross Doohan, similar to Benjamin Siegrist in the Dundee United game, had an absolute blinder on his league debut for Ross County. The Celtic loanee making 5 or 6 really good stops to keep the away team at bay, and it'll be a frustrating one for Jack Ross because his side didn't actually do much different from what they've done in other games. Simply bit of lack of cutting edge, which is unusual for them given they've got the likes of Joe Newell in good form, Kevin Nisbet, Christian Doidge, Martin Boyle, all obvious and well documented attacking players, but they still couldn't find a way to break down a Ross County side who have been resilient at the back this season. They have shown that they perhaps aren't the prettiest team to watch, with all due respect, but they do know how to sort of grind out results when and where they need to. I mean, they have been beaten heavily a couple of times. The game against Celtic and Aberdeen at home, they were beaten fairly convincingly, but as well as that, results against Motherwell, even their away trip to Ibrox where they defended really stoutly, and then this one shows that even against the best in Scotland, they can defend well and earn points, and it's another decent point for them in the league. They've been quietly plodding along, perhaps going under the radar a wee bit, people tipping them to be straight bottom this season, and they've been comfortably mid-table, and they'll be fairly pleased as well with that, just with the way things are going. And perhaps one of the bigger talking points in terms of matches this weekend was one that was never played. St Mirren versus Motherwell, all set to go ahead at 12 p.m. Both managers had previewed it. Motherwell looking back to getting into competitive action after their most documented match against Kilmarnock was postponed due to COVID-19 problems. They've not played since before the international break now against Rangers when they lost 5-1, and by the time they play Ross County next week, that'll almost be a full calendar month since they last kicked a ball in anger. This one was postponed. St Mirren had a couple of positive COVID-19 cases in the build-up to this one. One other person in self-isolation as a consequence. However, by the time it came round to Saturday, it was announced that another person had been infected with the virus, but not only that, it had ordered a number of first-years into self-isolation, leaving St Mirren with around 13 senior players to field, 4 of which are goalkeepers. The resulting end product, the game was postponed. Fans sort of a bit of mystery around this. Jim Goodwin saying that the most recent round of testing at St Mirren had all came back negative in terms of the players who, excluding the players who had tested positive and the one in self-isolation, everybody else had tested negative, but by the time it came around to Saturday, another positive test has discovered. And it goes without saying our best wishes are with those at St Mirren. A really troubling time for them. Again, they just haven't caught a break this season. Perhaps even though the COVID problems have affected all of the clubs in the SPFL so far, in the Premiership at least, St Mirren have been affected perhaps the worst in terms of cases coming back up again. Kilmarnock, Aberdeen have had games postponed due to their own problems, but it's only really happened once. Kilmarnock have had now, St Mirren have had 3 high documented cases of this. I mean, at the start of the season, you had the false positives. Then September, they had their goalkeeper department went out. Now they've had a game postponed. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with this in terms of whether a forfeit is handed out. We've already seen that happen with Kilmarnock in the League Cup, so the SPFL aren't shy in handing them out. They will do it if they need to. But because it's a league game, perhaps things are a bit different. Motherwell now having 2 games in hand because of this, and with the fixture schedule already congested, where they fit them in is anybody's guess. But it does bring about the COVID problems in Scotland, a real reminder of what faces us this season. We're only just through the first round of games for some teams. Dundee United, one of them, to have played every team in the league now, but it is going to take us a wee bit of time for teams to get up to speed. Hamilton and Aberdeen playing their games in hand this week in the build-up to next Saturday's games. You know, interesting to see where they actually fit these in. We've got the Scottish Cup coming up at the end of October. We've got League Cup games to fit in during the next international break. And also there's no winter break this year at all between the end of December and the start of January. So who knows when they'll play these fixtures. It'll probably be sometime down the road if indeed they are played. But that is all we've got time for on this review. I hope you have enjoyed. Please do remember to subscribe to us and like the video. We've got plenty of content out on the channel. And as well as that, we've got an exclusive interview with a former Kilmarnock star coming out this Wednesday. You don't want to miss that one. It's one of the favourites I've done so far this season. It's a really insightful chat with lots of different bits and gossip you can't get anywhere else apart from here on Not the Old Firm. You'll be able to read it on written form on our website, and you'll be able to get it here on the YouTube channel. So until then, take it easy.